Last Friday, I had made it down to the end of verse number 4. Ecclesiastes chapter number 4 and verse number 4. Again, I considered all travail and every right work, that for this a man is envied of his neighbor. And I pointed out that the meaning here, in my understanding, is the honest, the upright, the noble, the good and godly labor of men. I've dealt with that word travail and tried to point out to you that over time the shiny wears off of everything, and you may be enthusiastic about a new endeavor, but over time the newness wears away, it goes away, and it becomes labor. And that is, in my understanding, what is embodied by the word travail, the work of the ministry. Paul recognized the church for their labor of love, their work of faith and labor of love. The shiny had worn off of it, and it had become that. It had become the work, the work of the ministry. And the world is filled up with men and women that are good and godly individuals, that are saved, born-again people. And they are involved in every right work. They are doing what they're doing to the glory of God. They're doing what they're doing for righteousness' sake. They may not be recognized by society. They may be grossly misunderstood. The their travail has become a reality, and they are now truly, in the truest sense of the term, they are occupied now in an area that could be defined only as a work of faith and labor of love. Now, because of this righteous work, this good work, this honorable and upright work that men are engaged in, other individuals will look at that and have some envy. You let a pastor stay in the pulpit through thick and thin, through good and bad, through both weddings and funerals, in a pulpit for 35, 45, 50 years. And there are other preachers that washed out after a year and a half, after 5 years, they washed out. I know preachers now, and I guess that some of them have pastored a dozen churches. They've never stayed anywhere. I can say it like that. They've never stayed anywhere. And they look at a man that stayed in the same place, and God has used that man to build a good work. And they'll be filled with an attitude of envy. You let a businessman run his business honorably and faithfully. Be honest with his customers. Be honest with the product that he's dealing with. Let him build an honest business and stay with that business and run that business. And that'll cause individuals to be filled with envy. They'll say, well, I've never been successful at anything I've ever done. And this man has been, or woman has been successful in this area of business. But there's a terrible area of vanity and vexation of spirit that Solomon makes a reference to here, where he states, again, I considered all travail in every right work, for for this a man is envied of his neighbor, because he is engaged in a right work. He is engaged in a righteous work. This is also vanity and vexation of spirit. You know, over time, all men die. The good and the bad. The diligent and the fool that I'm going to read about in the next verse. The fool foldeth his hands together and eateth his own flesh. And I'll have something to say about that if